Do it. We watched Luka do it last night. We watched Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown do it. The fact of the matter is this. James Harden doesn't have the explosiveness no more. James Harden can't get to the basket like he used to get to the basket. James Harden can't even create enough separation to get his three-point shot off anymore. This is James Harden, and this is who he is, and I think we have to accept that. And yes, he has become a liability for the Philadelphia 76ers, because if you look at their 3 wins, it wasn't on the back of James Harden. It was on the back of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. And we can't continue to ask Tyrese Maxey to bring this team home and not hold James Harden accountable, but James Harden just don't have it no more. And offensively, he's a liability for the Philadelphia 76ers.
So much of Tyrese Maxey's success in those first 2 games were because of the attention they paid to James Harden. They were sitting in the gaps at the nail on every ISO. How many times do we see over the first 2 games just a quick swing pass to Maxey where he's got a lineup 3 or he's able to attack a closeout? James Harden is not a liability, Perk. Is James Harden the same player that we saw in Houston or pre-hamstring injury in Brooklyn? No, he's not. So I think our view of who James Harden is has to change. Liability is the wrong word. James Harden is still a very effective playmaker and facilitator. He averaged over 10 assists a game while he was in Brooklyn this year. While he was in Philly, he's averaging over 9 in this series. In the 21 games he played for the Sixers this year, on-off net rating, they're 13, almost 14 points better with him on the court. Here's my worry on this, though. Let's say the Sixers get by the Raptors. Against the Miami Heat, he's going to be faced with Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker. It's a lot of the same of what we're seeing in this series, big two-way wings. I don't know who needs to hear this, by the way, because it's not on the docket. It's not on the docket for today. But Jimmy Butler has been the best player in these playoffs. When we look at points added on offense, Jimmy Butler first. Points saved on defense, Jimmy Butler second to Giannis. He has been far and away, through 4 or 5 games in every series, he's been far and away the best player in these playoffs.
But what about, what about his matchup, though, compared to
no, but hold on.
stars?
Some of it is that. Some of it is Matt. But I said this last week. The Heat match up well against the Sixers because of what I talked about. They've got depth. They've got a switching 5 in Bam Adebayo. With a hobbled Joel or an injured Joel not being at 100% and unable, because this is a trend, unable to score efficiently, even if Philly gets by this series, they're in a lot of trouble against the Miami Heat.
Yeah, but we're talking about the now.
You said liability is the wrong word, though. Liability is the wrong word. I've been a liability on defense before. Liability is the wrong word.
No, actually, the liability is the right word because James Harden is struggling to actually get 20 points, J.J. Redick. And with Joel Embiid being injured, James Harden doesn't have the capability of taking over the game anymore offensively. I don't care about the facilitating. The assisting don't ring a bell to me right now. That don't just elevate. That's not what the James Harden that the 76ers need right now. Because of Joel Embiid being injured, that means, yes, he is a liability because he can't close or take over the game. So how is that not being a liability if you can't take over the game?
Well, I'm with JJ on this in terms of the word liability because just because you can't take over the game doesn't make you a liability. When I think of liability, I think Ben Simmons. That's what I think. That's apropos. That's kind. That's entirely too kind a word liability when it comes to a Ben Simmons. And considering the franchise that he came from, which is the Philadelphia 76ers, I mean, Harden is heaven because guess what? At least he's on the court, all right? But I get where you're coming from, Perk. Here's the deal. You and J.J. Redick, especially you, JJ, are we really, really going to sit here and act like we don't suspect what's going on? James Harden has not been the same since his hamstring. Fair enough. James Harden looks like he lost a step. he ain't the same player that he was in Houston, just like KP just highlighted. Check. Obviously so. Let me give y'all these numbers. Last 9 games or so, during the regular season, 5 games during the playoffs. 2 for 11, 9 of 17, 4-15,